All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you all for joining our meeting tonight. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Lindsey Santana. I am the JP Liaison. I'm here tonight to facilitate the public meeting that's required for this proposal at 54 Hyde Park Ave. For everyone that is on the meeting, this is being recorded for public record. Before we start, I would like to go over ground rules for tonight's meeting. Having participated in public meetings like this, I know it's a sensitive topic. I want to make it clear, no decisions are being made here tonight, but this is a place for you to express concerns or suggestions to the applicant. Everyone is entitled to their opinion. There's no wrong and right answers for this proposal. They're all opinions. I ask that all questions be directed to me or the applicant, and for all of you to be respectful for others' opinions. This is not a debate to legalize marijuana. It already occurred during the ballot. So what's going to happen tonight is I'm going to hand it over to the applicants to present. You will all remain muted for the presentation portion of this presentation. At the end, we'll have a Q&A, and I will unmute you individually. At that time, you have the floor to ask questions, and you can direct those questions to the team that's here tonight, whether to Joe or Mike or Rebecca. But I'm going to go ahead and give the floor now to Joe.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I just have to be able to share. Give me that ability. Perfect. Okay, I hope everyone can see this. So good evening, and thank you for coming to our community meeting. Some of you, if not most of you, may already be familiar with me. We've held, this will be now our 6th meeting since July that we're holding on this topic. We held 3 in July ourselves. We were a part of the JP Neighborhood Council meeting in July. We were part of the JP Neighborhood Council meeting in August, and now we're here tonight. So my name is Joseph Lekach. I'm the CEO of Apothca, and we are seeking to be able to co-locate an adult use retail marijuana establishment in our already approved and licensed medical marijuana dispensary at 54A Hyde Park Ave in the neighborhood of Jamaica Plain. So with that, a little bit about us, and I'll try not to be too boring, but we are a not-for-profit, and we have multiple licenses with the Cannabis Control Commission, or CCC, to operate medical marijuana establishments, both retail and cultivation and product manufacturing, as well as multiple adult use establishments as well, including cultivation, product manufacturing, and we already have 2 adult use retail facilities open, one in Lynn, Massachusetts, which is located with a medical facility like this one here in JP that we are proposing. We also last week opened up our new adult use facility in Arlington, which will be co-located with our medical license that we moved from our old facility in Arlington to this new one, but the adult use was open last week without incident. And like I mentioned before, this 54 Hyde Park Ave location is already approved for medical dispensing, and we're looking to co-locate it with adult use. We provide consistent and high-quality marijuana and various marijuana products to registered patients as well as consumers who are over the age of 21, and we've been doing this for quite some time. We began cultivation in April of 2018. We had our first harvest in August of 2018. Opened our first medical dispensary in Arlington at the end of October of 2018. The Lynn Medical Dispensary was opened in November of 2018, and the Lynn Adult Use Facility was opened in October of 2019, and then the Arlington Adult Use Facility was opened last week. We do work very closely with the city, neighbors, business owners, because it really is, an all-for-one kind of mentality that we have. In fact, with our opening in Arlington, we had committed to at least a month of police details unless the police felt it was no longer needed. and quite literally, Monday was the last day of police detail. So it was only needed for 5 days. The chief of police called us and said, we don't need it anymore. But our team is a very diverse team that has a lot of experience in various facets of different businesses, and it all comes together to really do a great job for us. So me, I am, like I said, the CEO. Prior to starting Apothca, I was the EVP of sales and co-founder of a company called Dreamwater, where we manufactured a 2.5-ounce sleep shot called Dreamwater. Basically the exact opposite of 5-Hour Energy. It helps you relax and fall asleep. By the time I stepped back to start this business, I had us in about 35,000 stores in the United States, including most major retailers, as well as multiple international countries. Our CFO and a member of our board of directors is a man by the name of Andrew Mark Young. He is a former chief financial officer and chief operating officer of New Wave Fragrances, which is a fragrance manufacturing company that operates all over the world. And he is also the former CFO of Perfumania, which is the largest specialty fragrance retailer in the United States. Other members of our board of directors are my dad, Rahmi Lekach, who is one of the co-founders of Perfumania, and he held various executive positions at Parlux Fragrances, which is also a fragrance manufacturer that distributed fragrances all over the world. We also have Rabbi Moshe Bleich, who is the co-founder and chief rabbi of the Wellesley Weston Chabad Center, and Leon Nitka, who is a director of ours, and he is a principal at USA Property Group, which develops, manages, and trades various real estate. So with that, how did we get here and where are we going? So we'll include a lot of information about the medical side of things because we are opening up medical and we want the community to stay as informed as possible on that. But in May of 2017, we held our first community meeting. And over the summer of 2017, we had multiple community meetings in regards to our medical application. Some that we hosted ourselves, some that we joined other groups like the Neighborhood Watch and the JPNC. And then in October of 2017, the Jamaica Plain Neighborhood Council gave us a letter of non-opposition for our medical operations. It took about a year, but in October of 2018, we signed a medical host community agreement with the city of Boston. And in December of 2018, we got our conditional use permit from the Boston ZBA. And then again, a little bit ahead, in January of 2019, we submitted our change of location for our medical license with the CCC. And that was approved 1 year later in January of this year. And then we got hit with the coronavirus pandemic, which slowed a lot of things down for us and really has wreaked havoc on most of the world. So where do we go from here? We are going to be applying for a building permit any day now. We had hoped to do this by the end of July, but because of coronavirus restrictions on building permits, we got a little delayed. So we've had the approved set ready to submit since the end of July. We're hoping to finally finish up the submission by the beginning of next week. We're hoping that gets approved by November of 2020. We begin construction in November of this year as well. And then we do 3 things in January of 2021. We complete our construction, pass our CCC inspection, and commence medical dispensary operations, all in January of 2021. So in regards to adult use, we hope that we're able to submit our final application to the Boston Cannabis Board in October, and that is still very much at the beginning steps of this process. We're hopeful that by December we could get that approved and that we could submit our Cannabis Control Commission application and our adult use conditional use permitting with the ZBA. And then we hope that in January we could get that ZBA permit. In April of next year, receive our provisional adult use license. In July of next year, our final adult use license, and commence operations in August of next year. But as other panelists on this call will tell you, I'm far more optimistic than everyone else in terms of that timeline. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mike Ross, and he'll be able to guide us through the rest of this.
Hi, everyone. This is Mike Ross. Good to see you. I am an attorney. I'm an attorney for this team, and I'm an attorney at the law firm of Prince Lobel, and glad to be with you tonight. Before I kind of start drilling through slides, and we'll go quickly, I think the key difference here with this particular applicant is that they were very early by any standard in Massachusetts. And so as a result, Joseph and his team are open today in Lynn. They have a record to compare to look at. So, unlike a lot of the applicants that are coming before communities like Jamaica Plain and other communities within Boston and within the Commonwealth, and indeed I represent many of them, this is someone who actually has a track record and can compare what he's saying to you with actually what he's been able to do. So around issues around compliance, around issues around security, around issues around employees, diversity, employing from within, hiring from within, and promoting from within. All the issues I think that are important to the board and that are important to this community, issues around traffic and everything that comes up, we actually do have a track record. So I just wanted to point that out on the front end. So yes, so the plan here is to take what's already been approved, a medical marijuana treatment center at 54A Hyde Park Ave, and co-locate adult use at this facility. That is the plan. You can just advance the next one, Joseph. This is the site. So upstairs is where we'd be located. This is a small site. This is 1,800 square feet. By any measure, that's actually I think it's 1,500 square feet. My apologies. By any measure, that is a small site. So you're not going to see tons of people. This is not some supermarket. This is not some cannabis supermarket. I think notably, we're going to continue to serve the patient community of Jamaica Plain. I think that's an important fact to point out. A lot of the new applications that are coming before Boston are not including medical. There's a lot of reasons for that. One of the things that Joseph's able to do is, because he's vertically integrated, because he is already supplying his own operations, he can do medical. And since this operation was already permitted as medical, he intends to keep it as medical. So you're already going to have medical operating out of this facility, and now you're going to have adult use, because there are a lot of people who, for whatever reason, don't want to be counted as medical as patients. They might work for the government, they might have other reasons or issues. So this now makes it available to the general public. But it's still small, and it will probably operate similar to what you might think a small, say, wine store might operate as, or even possibly a small drugstore. That this will typically serve the people from this community. It does help that this is located so close to Forest Hill Station. Obviously, public transit is good for any of these operations, but this is a small shop. Downstairs is another operation, another entity. It's a CrossFit fitness center, which obviously they're dealing with whatever they're dealing with the whole COVID situation. So just wanted to make that point. Next slide. So I mentioned we'll do medical at this facility. We'll do adult use. You wouldn't know really the difference. You're still kind of dealing with the opaque glass. You're still looking at the exact same facility. Nothing changes when it's adult use. In fact, in some ways it gets harder. Medical is available for patients who are 18 years old and older. Adult use is only available to people who are 21 and older. And unlike, say, a liquor store where you might sell bags of chips and a kid can wander in there and buy the bags of chips, absolutely no youth can come in under the age of 21 for adult use. And if they're between the ages of 18 and 21, they have to be a qualifying patient to be able to come into the facility. The only difference is going to be that where you actually purchase in the store your adult use versus your medical. And a few other differences in the amount. Medical patients are afforded a much greater percentage of cannabis that they can take in. Adult use, there's restrictions on the amount they can buy and the potency of what they're buying. So it's actually a little bit, I guess, medical actually offers a little bit kind of a broader platform of options in terms of cannabis. Go ahead, Joseph. So, as a patient, you have to show your identification. It has to be current. You have to show that in multiple points of purchase in the store. Joseph's been doing this now for a while in Arlington and in Lynn, and he can tell you about his complaint. He hasn't had any issues, no issues since he's been open for how long, Joseph? Sorry, you're muted.
Sorry, I was muted. The first location opened up in October of 2018.
Okay. So no issues yet, no violations, no fines, nothing. And if you're an adult use, you have to show a valid identification. It has to be a valid license, a passport in order to come into the facility. Joseph? So security, this is interesting. Joseph's hiring, and this refers to the medical marijuana. It's going to be the same for the adult use. Joseph and his team are hiring security guards. They're not hiring they're not outsourcing security. They are actually going to select their security team, and they are going to be full employees. They're not going to be 1099s. They're not going to be contracted out. They're going to be actual employees of the company. So they'll get benefits. They'll get a good salary, but more importantly, the operator will be able to select who's there. It won't just depend on who shows up on a given Tuesday, Thursday, or Friday. It's going to be actually employees that Joseph and his team have selected and are hiring and relying on to serve as their security team. Most operators are outsourcing this to security companies. And, security companies are fine, but I think the fact that they're actually employing people is an added benefit. Next slide. In addition to the security guards that will be working at this facility, he will supplement his operations with Wayne Alarm, probably the gold standard in the alarm business. And then there will also be armored car, very limited armored car for any cash pickups on a randomized basis. The rest, Apothca controls on its own. It controls the product because the product is coming from Apothca. It controls when the product arrives. It drives its own product to the facility. We're not relying on some other company to bring it to us. We're not relying on some other time or place or manner of the product to arrive. We are able to control 100% of the supply chain because the supply chain is coming from us. We're vertically integrated. And that's for the medical, of course, which is a requirement or was a requirement of the license when they first opened, but is also a requirement of adult use. It's also going to be, it's not a requirement of adult use, it's also going to be applying to the adult use. So the products that are coming from Apothca will be for both medical and adult use, and we will control 100% of that supply chain. Next slide, Joseph. I think I covered most of that. We can come back to that if we want. So I mentioned the kind of key differences between adult use, the adult use and medical in terms of, the main issue is I think the ages 21 and older versus 18 being a valid patient. Adult use customers are called customers. Medical patients are called patients. So we'll now have patients and customers arriving at the facility. Next slide. I think I've covered. Hold on, it's very small on my little screen here. I just want to make sure I hit the things I wanted to hit. No, I'm good there. Next slide. We can skip that slide. The number one thing that we can do in a community is not be a nuisance. Because this is properly zoned for the sub-district in Jamaica Plain that we're in, it's a conditional use permit. It's a conditional use permit for medical. It's a conditional use permit for adult use. So the legal standard for being cited with a conditional use permit is really preventing nuisance. The other thing that we are, and so that's something we have to be very cognizant of. So that's going to relate to anything from trash to parking to any of those issues. Those security guards we talked about, they'll be stationed outside. We will have someone outside. So the person who comes along and double parks in front of 54A Hyde Park Ave and says, "I'm just running in to pick something up quickly," that person will not be allowed to enter the facility. And we will have complete and total control of that because we have our employees stationed outside and keeping an eye on it. That's what I mean when I talk about preventing a nuisance. Those are the types of protocols that we have in place and will have in place here, but something that we've already been working on and ironing out all the kinks and the bugs with in the other facilities as well. The other most important thing we need to do is ensure that the product is not getting into the hands of young people. That's called diversion. It is the number one issue. It's the thing that can get you shut down. I'd say it's far different than even a liquor store. Maybe a liquor store gets a slap on the wrist. I think diversion in this case would get you shut down by the CCC and probably now by the Boston Cannabis Board. So preventing diversion is the most important thing we can do. We can track our products. We know when they're sold. We know what is sold. Everything is barcoded and RFID'd and properly, so we could figure out if something landed in the hands of a young person. We could figure out where it came from, when it was sold. This is much different than, say when I was growing up and something wound up in my backpack or something. You didn't know who sold you that. If your parents found it, you were in big trouble, but you really couldn't figure out where it came from. This is completely different. This is one of the benefits, I think, of what's happening with the legalization of this industry is you're now able to better control any of these issues in terms of the illegal use, the diversion, and those types of things. And by putting it in the responsible hands of an operator who's governed by state and city law, who's under the watchful eye of security and security cameras and all the other things that we're talking about, it actually has a statistical effect of dropping the amount of malfeasance and illegal activity in this space. We can pop to the next one. I think we're covering a lot of things. Let's talk about Jamaica Plain for a second. We were very proud to earn a letter of non-opposition or limited support rather, from the Jamaica Plain Neighborhood Council. We have had a number of community meetings. We had our own, now this occurred during COVID, so it took a while for the city of Boston to get up and running with these WebEx calls that they're doing now. That's relatively new. So in that time, we didn't stand still. We actually went out and did meetings of our own. We had a meeting on July 2nd. We had a meeting on July 9th. We had a meeting on July 27th. We also had the JP Neighborhood Council meeting I mentioned to you. We had one on July 28th. We had one on August 25th. So by that count, this is our 6th meeting. Joseph will meet with you in a phone booth if you want. I mean, he is willing to have this conversation with anyone who wants to. He is a hands-on person and is willing to meet with anyone. So if people are feeling like they need more engagement with our team, we're not running from that. We're embracing that. We'd like you to let us know, and we're happy to sit down with you and talk to you. But there has been a real thorough process with this. We want to hire locally. We also want to hire people who had been victims of the war on drugs, the so-called war on drugs, and as well as the populations that have been historically targeted by the war on drugs. If you look to Joseph's current hiring practices in other communities, his numbers are excellent. I actually think we have a slide on that front in a minute, but there it is, yeah. but we want to bring that same kind of record to the Jamaica Plain community. So I want to point out a couple of these. Over 60% of Apothca's employees across the Massachusetts operations are either minorities, women, or residents of areas of disproportionate impact. 50% of the directors of the board, our directors, are minorities or people of color. Apothca's executive management team is primarily comprised of minorities or people of color. At Apothca, other medical dispensaries, patient transactions are typically processed. So, each transaction is like 10 minutes. And you start to actually have a throughput count, and you actually start to know how many people you're going to have so that you can limit lines, you can promote when people can order ahead of time. There's pretty sophisticated computer systems here. And just one other point I want to make, when Pure Oasis, Boston's only adult use cannabis store, was for a while was the only was the first to open, and it was the only one open. When it was I guess burglarized or lost, was broken into, thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars worth of product was removed from Pure Oasis. And we're telling you now, but at the time, and because we encouraged Joseph to put this information out there. At the time, Joseph quietly supported this group to try to help get them additional product, and he donated product to Pure Oasis here in Boston. I raise that only to say that this team recognizes the importance of being Boston-based, what that means, and wants to be a very good neighbor, a good business neighbor, a good neighbor to residents, a good neighbor to all. Do we have anything else left here on this slide here, Joseph? Let's see what we got.
No, that's it for the slides. But what I'll say is, this is not going to be the last chance for community feedback and anything else. I could say that one of the things that we're going to be focusing on, if we're allowed to go forward with an HCA process, a host community agreement, is one resident brought up that there should be an additional crosswalk added in this area. Whether or not we're there, that it's a dangerous street to be crossing, and while we can't guarantee things like that, it's one of the things that we're able to push for and advocate for during this process with the city of Boston, especially when we're talking about the host community agreements. But there's a lot of things that we want to continue to push forward on, a lot of things we want to do. This is not anywhere near the last public comment for this proposal. We will continue to be hosting our own meetings as we go through this process and keeping everyone abreast. We'll continue to visit with the Jamaica Plain Neighborhood Council. The JPNC did give us a limited letter of non-opposition to keep this process moving forward while they continuously evaluate how we're moving forward in this process. We're going to be stopping by with them fairly frequently. And on the next slide I'm going to put up, you have my personal cell phone number and email address. Keep coming forward. Keep sending me ideas, thoughts, suggestions, questions, things of that nature, and I'll be able to respond to them individually. Like Mike said, I'm pretty hands-on with these things. And so you'll be able to come in and weigh in on one of our meetings, weigh in one-on-one with me, weigh in with the JPNC, the Boston Cannabis Board, the Zoning Board of Appeals. I mean, so many different times that we could keep getting feedback. And one thing I always like to offer, and still no one's taken me up on it, but I'll continue to offer it. I would be more than happy to take anyone from the neighborhood on a personalized tour of either or both of our stores, our cultivation, so you can see the kind of operation we run and how it really is. It fits in nicely with our surrounding communities. I think we've done a great job with that, and I'd love to show it off. So if anyone wants to, please feel free to schedule that with me. Like I said, that's my cell phone number, that's my email address, and I'm always available.
All right, are you guys ready for the Q&A? All right, awesome. All right, neighbors. So now we're going to move forward with the Q&A portion of the presentation. So I will unmute you individually. Give me 1 second. Still at City Hall. All right, so I'll unmute you individually and call on you. At the time, you will have the floor to ask questions or state concerns or suggestions. So I'm going to go ahead and unmute Amanda. Amanda, can you please tell me your address for the record? Amanda? Amanda? All right. Stephanie Young, you've been unmuted.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yep.
I can hear you.
Okay, my laptop was doing a few crazy things. I have actually attended a couple of the Zoom meetings, as Joseph and Rebecca know, and I do feel it's important to state concerns and some questions on this recorded one with you in attendance. I live at 7 Weld Hill Street, and I have for 30 years. So I have a lot of concerns. I am fully in support of the industry. So I am a patient, and I have shopped, and I am in support. But the location, now I was in retail for 20 years and insurance for 10 and technology. So I've had plenty of customer facing situations, and I'm the ultimate consumer. So being the resident of Forest Hills for 30 years, I do not like this situation, even as I am in support of the industry, because I feel like it is a problem waiting to happen. I totally understand that the operation and how everything is laid out, it probably works very well in those locations. But everything that keeps going through my mind, number one, how it is that the license was approved for medical when no one in our building or the landlord was ever spoken to, and we are the abutting building. In the previous meeting, I even showed my location, and I could throw something and hit the back door right from my back porch. So this is how close I am to the location, and no one knew. So I really am struggling with the process and want to hear how that could happen when we are right there. And no one, even in this last round for this meeting, I didn't hear about it at all until the E1 email. So I don't think anyone in my building got a notice, or the landlord. So those are all concerns. The landlord is McDonald Brothers Real Estate and owns multiple properties in JP. So I know he hasn't spoken to anyone and didn't know about it. I know it for a fact. So that is a huge concern for me, that it was already approved for medical and how that happened without us being spoken to. The next part is real life traffic. I have shopped at Netta. I have shopped at medical only dispensaries, and at multi-use, and at adult only, even in other states. If there's one line in the direction towards Roslindale that's maybe 15 people deep, you're now going to start being in front of someone's home. If you have even maybe 5 people deep in a line going the other direction, you're going to be right in front of Acolito's door. And if it starts wrapping around the corner, it's going to hit my front door. So all I can envision is one very, very busy weekend of a very long line, and you're going to have a lot of problems, and there are going to be situations that are not going to be pretty between the traffic at Acolito's, which is already a problem with Uber Eats and all of those services. So it's already a powder keg right now, and people are backing up into this street. So I also understand it will be public transportation only and no parking. That does not mean it changes people's real life behavior here at Forest Hills. I have had to call 311 with people backing up our street. It's a mess. It's a mess every day. So one more dynamic. This is why I said to you, Joseph, you're going to need to double up your security and honestly have it on both sides of the building. Like, these are all, like, regardless of your business, I'm talking about the actual traffic and the people around. Something is going to clash. Those are my huge concerns.
Let me, if I may, try to address them, Stephanie. And first of all, it's really good to hear from a patient, and the fact that you're a direct abutter. That's very important to us. And you bring up some really good points. So let's take your first kind of issue around medical. Why weren't you noticed appropriately? It is true. In 2017, when the when the medical regime was in place, they didn't have what we're doing now. So there was no required notice plan at this level. We had to advertise in the newspaper. We had to put out certified letters. We had to flyer. So, and we had to do that for within 300 feet of the facility. That's totally new, and that's totally different. Now,
Mike, sorry, just jump in because Stephanie, this is something we did discuss, and I do appreciate your concerns and thank you for sharing them. So for the medical process, with the actual application process, we did have an official community meeting, and we did have our own community meetings. And I think I mentioned to you that I had at that point, my wife was fairly pregnant, and I personally, with her, went up and down every street. We posted as many notices as we could personally. I wanted to ensure that it got done. But a lot of times, especially in multifamily homes, we're not able to get in. And if we try and slip things under the door, someone comes in and throws it out. So that could be one of the situations that occurred then. But I know that we got every door, every building personally because I was there and I did it with my incredibly pregnant wife. Noticed everything, and not just within 500 feet. We did many streets there. And then for our official community meeting, we followed all special permit noticing requirements and all of that. We were before the JP Neighborhood Council multiple times. And so it was actually a fairly long process to get there with, and I could actually go back to the timeline to kind of give you an idea, but we had multiple meetings, some, like I said, hosted by us, some hosted by other groups. But from May to October of 2017, that happened a whole lot. And I'm sorry that you weren't aware of it at the time. We did do the best that we could.
And then the next door neighbor's been here 20. The other neighbors, and there's 6 units, and there are at least 4 out of the 6 that I know partake, and we would have been having discussions about it. So at the very least, the 2 longest standing, none of us heard about it, and the landlord didn't. So a certified letter should have gone to McDonald Weather Real Estate. You can easily look up the owner right on the assessor's database.
And we did. And
yes, that was for our official community meeting.
So then I should be speaking to the landlord and telling him he should have been notifying us, because I understand what you're saying, that at the time the process was different. The result is still the same. The result is that there should have been extra effort, just as much as there's effort towards the home that has a daycare in it. You've got 6 residential units. That's a liability issue waiting to happen. Yeah, I mean, that I'm just saying, like, the end result is still the same. We didn't.
Absolutely. The end result is still the same. And the standard process would be to do the certified mailings. The extra effort was, again, me personally and my pregnant wife at the time going every door and posting as much as we could whenever we could get in, dropping things under the door. I would consider that a significant amount of extra effort. And there was multiple meetings that we did that for. And the landlord would have also gotten the notice through the certified mail, and if he didn't communicate that to his tenants, such as yourself.
So if something's gonna, I'm just, I don't want to be a problem, but like I said, the first time someone stumbles onto our lawn, the next time it's a concern. There are people who have been, issues at the tavern because of drunk folks hanging out over there. Okay. So that's one mess. I am really concerned that I understand the steps you've taken, but I don't think you know the real life of Forest Hills here. And that's what is a concern, but also that the neighborhood council, they don't want to talk to us either. So, I just find it interesting. I'm only one person. I'm just stating my concerns, and I know it's not going to make much difference, but it doesn't sit easy at all. It really doesn't.
Sorry, Mike. I apologize, Mike. One more thing in terms of the traffic. First of all, the Acholitos, which is right next door to us, they do make great food, but they have no need to have perimeter security or things of that nature to help with traffic and congestion. I would like to say that at the last JPNC meeting that we were at in August, we had one council member request that we do a traffic study, which we would have done for the ZBA, but I expedited it, and I was able to actually send that to them yesterday. It was finally finished, and we use the same exact engineer that we use in Lynn and in Arlington. And I can tell you in Lynn and Arlington, the actual car trip numbers in their projections were higher than the reality. And in this situation, it's under 50 cars a day, which is less than 5 cars every hour for when we're open. But more importantly, from a public consumption perspective and from a traffic perspective, we do have exterior security and lot attendants. And that's why I said, please come by the Arlington location, which is actually more akin to this Hyde Park Ave location. And I would gladly, take you there and show you around myself. And we haven't created any traffic issues there. And
Lynn is medical only, right?
No, Lynn is co-located medical with adult use, but
So-
the better comparison would be the Arlington location, which is right on Mass Ave, also in a very densely populated area and in a very small street. And that is also adult use. And so, I would love to be able to show that to you personally.
I really don't need to go. I mean, it's just, how long is the longest line you've seen?
The day that we opened, at opening, we had 6 people outside. And then we process customers in under 5 minutes. So we haven't had a single issue. Our lot, we have 12 spots there, and it doesn't even get used. I mean, it's pretty crazy. I can tell you that the largest day that we've had since we've opened has been a total of 281 transactions, which was actually our opening day. And that's over a 10-hour period. And in this situation here, I would imagine it being somewhere around there, but with very few car trips. And we will not.
I'm just wondering how often anyone's actually been right there and seen how close it is to people's front door and to Acolitos.
The better analogy would be Pure Oasis, I think. No parking, smaller store. There's like nothing else open in Boston. That was the one store. I know when they first opened, that first day, they had a line, and they haven't had a line since that first day. That's just from publicly available information. And it's a very small store without parking. So, I mean, look, you have every right to hold us to the representations we're making right now. We will go with you hand in hand into the Boston Cannabis Board and tell them that you're not going to have a nuisance and represent that in front of the board. If you have a nuisance, you have every right to demand that we hire detailed police officers and anything else that we should have. I'm sure Joseph would be willing to ramp up more security on the front end and then slowly back it off if needed. We expect to be held to the representations we're making today to you. So I would ask you to hold us to that. I'm not asking you to trust us. I'm asking you to maybe trust but verify, right? So listen to what we're saying. And if we don't meet what we're saying, you have every right to hold us accountable. The city of Boston has every right to hold us accountable. And we think we know we're going to hit the commitments we're making.
And Stephanie, on Mass Ave, the Arlington location, it's very similar to this. Like I said, it's 2-lane street, one way each side, densely packed. We have residential neighbors right behind us, very similar to this, that they could see into our facility, not into our facility, but into our parking area, just like you can. They had certain concerns as well, and we addressed them all just like we're doing here. And I can tell you, everyone's very happy with us. We had an MOU signed with the Arlington Police Force that had at least 30 days of Arlington detailed police, and that was stopped at 4 days because the police was like, nothing happened. All the fears that we had, you guys were right. And that's why I say it's a great analogy, that store to this store, and it would be great for you to go and take a look. And you see, there are no lines, and we're very efficient with what we do, and there is no blowing smoke up anyone's butts here. Mike said, at the beginning that we are one of the few groups that have a significant track record within the Commonwealth and understanding this process, and that's why I'm able to sit here confidently and say, I understand the concerns because we've dealt with it in every time that we've done this, but so far I can tell you that we've overcome those concerns, and people are, and the municipalities we work with are very happy to have us in town.
Excellent. I just, again, like, this is the landing spot for everybody from Roslindale, Hyde Park, West Roxbury coming into the city. So, you know, again, this neighborhood mix, it's not your facility that I am concerned about. I'm concerned with what is going to happen all of a sudden when everybody decides to shop. So,
well, actually,
So,
just one more thing on that, if I can, Stephanie. So, really sorry. Just one more thing on that. So, Arlington adult use, I can tell you it is the only adult use facility in the entire area. There is no adult use in Cambridge, Somerville, Lexington, Concord, Belmont, Waltham. I mean, I could go on and on. We're literally the only ones. So it's a very good analogy to this space, just from all these different circumstances.
all right, so we're gonna need to move forward. We have other neighbors on the call. We wanted to make sure we're giving them time. So Stephanie, thank you for calling in. I'm gonna mute you. I'm sure you can reach out to Joe or someone from his team to clarify anything, or if you need to contact me about other concerns, you can do so as well. All right, next person will be Carissa. Carissa, can you tell me your address, please? Carissa Schaffer.
Not this. Which one did I say?
Carissa, I can hear you.
Sorry. I'm so sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, did you want to speak?
No, I'm okay. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. I'm going to go ahead and mute you. All right, Sarah Donahue, you're muted. Sarah Donahue? Sarah? Sarah Donahue? All right. I'm going to go ahead and mute you. All right. Gregory, you're muted.
No questions here. Thanks.
Okay. Carolyn Hibbert, you've been unmuted.
I think I have had all my questions answered. Thank you, though.
Okay, thank you. Well then, Christy, you've been unmuted. Christy Zarlengo.
Sorry. Oh, hi. Yeah, no questions. Thank you.
Okay. Well, Sarah, I know you had questions, so I'm going to unmute you. Sarah
Bjorman.
Yes.
Sarah Bjorman. Yes, you've spoken very well about the traffic, except you haven't laid out anything that is like Weld Hill Street coming down onto Hyde Park Avenue. And I am totally not convinced that having 5 people or more an hour driving in or even walking in, but I'm concerned about cars parking. And even if you have people there to tell them to go away, when I am needing to get out of Weld Hill Street and I need to be able to see to the left and exit safely to the left or exit safely to the right, and the cars are there and I have to wait for one of your guards to tell them that they should move or whatever, I really don't like that. And I do not see from your description that will not happen. I have been here since 1987, and believe me, I know that you probably don't really get it, but I'm telling you, it is a problem now, and it is going to get to be more of a problem. It's been a problem with the Acholitos. I actually spend some time from time to time down there explaining to the people that are parking for just a minute that in that minute, any of us on Weld Hill Street could be killed because they are parking there. And I resent the idea that anyone else can just, it's too bad that you don't find a facility that is located more appropriately. And I walked in the back and I saw what someone had told me was the parking lot for you guys, but that's not going to work either. So I don't know what you're going to do for that. I'm curious about your hours of providing the product to the adult recreationalists. Is it limited by days or hours? But I stand firmly in my total lack of belief that my life is not going to be further compromised. It's been compromised with Acholitos. We got the parklet there that helped a little bit, but then people started parking on both sides of the parklet. And that goes on and on. This is not an appropriate location for commerce right at the bottom of Weld Hill Street. Weld Hill Street and this whole area is a nice little neighborhood, and it becomes dangerous when businesses come in and don't really understand the choreography of the neighborhood. And I think that so far you do not really understand the choreography of the neighborhood. So I'm against it. I'm against your having adult use here on that basis. Another factor is that I don't know if I believe that you can stop people from using your product here, but I can tell you now the smell is disgusting. I am from the 1960s, and we didn't used to have pot like that. I don't know why people chose to breed this stinky stuff instead of something different. But as well as the problem with exiting Weld Hill Street safely, I think that the quality of the neighborhood here with adult use is going to be compromised. That's all I have to say.
So the first is, thank you for your feedback. One of the things I could do, if you would like, is I could send you a copy of this traffic study. And like I said, every time we've had one made, it's overestimated the reality of what has happened. And I think with Stephanie, I did speak a lot about what we would do on the ground. We would ban people from coming into the store if they don't listen to our instructions, if they try and park illegally, things like that. This isn't Archolitos. Archolitos doesn't have to make any kind of commitments like this. And it's not one that we make lightly. It's one that we make to be part of the community, and one that we will stand behind. And if there are issues related to our operation, right there on your screen, you'll see, again, that's my cell phone number. If you call right now, it'll ring my cell phone. That's my email address, and I am always available to really anyone who has that. And I publish it very frequently.
May I ask you a question?
Sure.
Suppose someone has come and parked illegally, and I am trying to get out of my street. What is going to happen with that illegal parking? Tell me step by step.
If it's something that we are able to see, because we also can't patrol the entire neighborhood, we can just patrol our area. We will tell that customer that they have to leave, and they will not be allowed service while their car is there. Mm-hmm. They could try to do whatever they want, but we still don't let them in, because there is a first check before you can even walk into the waiting room to be checked.
Yes.
So we would be doing that, and we would be taking down license plate information and reporting that on up, because we have the ability to do all that.
I appreciate all that, and I'm telling you that while you are doing that, I am sitting in my car really needing to get to an appointment or somewhere else, and that will happen. It could from your numbers, that could happen up to 5 times an hour. I mean, I know it wouldn't happen that often, but it will happen probably close to that frequency, at least at certain times. And I will be sitting waiting in my car to make my either left turn or right turn, because to get out of Weld Hill Street, you have to turn either left or right.
The only thing I want to add to that is that, and Sarah, I hear your passion, that might give you some comfort, is that because there isn't a lot of parking at this facility, people with cars are going to go to one of the many other facilities that will have parking. I know that Center Street, JP, is going to have parking. I know that there's a proposal in Mission Hill that's going to have parking. I know that there is a proposal in Hyde Park that's talking about having 35 parking spaces. The way the industry works is people pretty much settle in on their spot. My wife is a patient. She has the same place she goes to every single time. So when people have a car, they're going to go to the place that has the car. It's like parking spaces begets cars, and not having any parking spaces and having a guy outside saying you can't get into the building if you park illegally. After a while, that gets old, and water rises to meet its mark. And customers go to the place that's going to fit them best. We anticipate that most of our customers are going to come on foot because there's nowhere for them to bring their car. Joe? Or
the MBTA. That's the proximity to the Forest Hill Ski Station is really what it is what attracted us to this area, aside from actually liking the area personally. In terms of hours of operation, I could tell you that Arlington and Lynn run on the same hours. So I would imagine, depending on what the city allows us to do, on Sundays and Mondays, we run from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. And then Tuesdays through Saturdays, it is 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. And then in regards to the smell, again, we would, if we catch anyone or if you see anyone smoking any of our products, it's disconcerting to know that there's already a smell there and there's no dispensaries nearby. But if anyone is caught using any of our products, or honestly, if we see anyone using any products outside, we actually we have a duty to inform the police and the Cannabis Control Commission and ban that person from ever coming back to our establishment. And we take that duty very seriously. It's part of the regulations.
All right, thank you. So thank you, Mike. Sarah, if you have other questions, I'll gladly connect you to Joe or Mike. His number and email are on the screen. Thank you for voicing your concerns. We're gonna go ahead and move forward. Jesse Welty, you are unmuted.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you tell me your address, please?
27 Woodlawn.
Okay. Floor is yours.
So, thank you. Woodlawn Street runs parallel to Weld Hill. It's between Weld Hill and the station. I think the other residents are on the neighboring street, but I wanted to voice a thought that you've touched a little bit upon as a resident on Woodlawn Street. It seems that a big thing for this location is the MBTA station. And as other residents have noted, we have had an issue with people smoking cigarettes outside of the station in the lower busway, and we noticed an uptick in people smoking marijuana after legalization took effect in Massachusetts. As good citizens, what measures, if any, can be taken to mitigate this, knowing that it's not right in your space? What I would love to be able to do is, if you see anyone using any marijuana products, you could let us know. Aside from my contact information, once we get hiring, our store manager's contact information is going to be readily available, and we'll do our best to try and figure out who it was, including if we have a complaint happening in real time, we could always send a staff member to try and see who it is. And it's going to be education as well. When we have customers or patients come, we have a lot of education that we present to them, and one of the things that we focus on is public consumption is illegal. If you are caught consuming in public, we have to notify the police and we have to ban you. And if you're a patient, we also notify the CCC and their referring physician. So those are the things we can do and will do. We want to be able to also collaborate with the police on this. I mean, the exterior cameras from our facility do catch a lot. And in fact, we've helped other police departments with things like that. And if there's anything else that you have any ideas on or suggestions, I'd be more than happy to hear them out and hopefully be able to implement anything that could work to make it even better. But sure. I realize that this is a problem that's currently happening with no dispensary around, and it's not just there. I went to college in the area for 4 years, and I never used to smell marijuana in the Commons, and now whenever I'm in the Commons, I smell a whole lot of marijuana, and it's an issue I think that the state and local PD really has to start tackling very seriously, because it's uncomfortable. I have a 2.5-year-old and a 1-year-old, and if I take them on a walk, I don't want them smelling weed or cigarettes, personally. Absolutely. Are you in contact with, or do you have any relationship established with the MBTA Transit Police? Those people would be patrolling or present in the area, and they might be your first line rather than city police.
We don't, but I have no problem reaching out to them. I'll reach out to anyone who could help, honestly, because I want to make sure that, without us there, it's bad. I want it to get better once we get there, not worse. So that's a good suggestion, and I'm actually going to send a quick little note to see how I could coordinate with them. So
the location is certainly a boon to you, but it brings a great responsibility. And as a person who works in a bar, compliance, with what we need to do, preventing people from being underserved, crowd control, those are all issues that we worry about on a different scale. But it, came to mind with me too, with this. I wonder how in your day-to-day operations effective you would be at identifying people at the station as customers and then getting a positive ID on them.
It really depends that's on a case-by-case basis. Like, for example, if someone has a pre-rolled joint or something like that it's all branded with our logo and our image. So if we are able to recognize it, then we know that they're a customer. Also, I think that the bigger concern would be, I think, vape cartridges. And so we sell very specific vape cartridges. So if we see someone using one of our vape cartridges, that's an easy telltale sign. So there's things like that we could figure out. Obviously, if there's no brand new packaging or anything like that, then it becomes a little harder. But we could still post pictures within our facility. Or if we see something like that, we could look back at our camera for, let's say, the preceding 15, 20 minutes and see if that person had been inside. And if they had, then we could, if they're a patient, we could exactly identify who they are. If they're adult use, then we have to do a little digging, but we'll be able to figure it out as well. And one quick little thing, my government affairs person just sent me a message in response saying that they used to represent the MBTA police. And that he currently represents 4,000 MBTA employees separate from the police. And so he's going to take a lead on setting up some kind of conference with them to see how we can work together. That was a great idea.
I think that's essential for your success. I have one more question that's more specific to the times, if you're willing to take it.
Sure.
I don't recall the exact timeline, but I think that we're all thinking about what the impact COVID has on retail and service-oriented things. Are you foreseeing changing your operations with respect to the pandemic in any way? I didn't hear that addressed at all.
Sure. So we have changed our operations with respect to the pandemic. First, adult use was closed for 61 days starting in March. When we reopened, we were moved to curbside pickup only, and so we had to get standard operating procedures drafted and approved by the TCC before we could start serving curbside. And then now that retail is allowed, we do allow people into our facility, but most of our order traffic comes from order ahead. So we prepackage those orders, and there's very limited interaction. We have a glass guards in front of all of our POS stations to separate our staff from customers. Masks are required at all times by our staff as well as all customers. We have multiple hand sanitizing dispensers throughout each of our facilities, both at the POS counters, entrances, exits, and scattered throughout. We also have social distancing in place in our facilities. So, if 2 or 3 people come together, they're grouped together, and then they're 6 feet apart from any other party. So we do all that as well. And I hesitate, but to knock on wood, we see hundreds of people a day in Lynn and Arlington, and so far, none of our staff have contracted COVID-19, and no customer of ours has contact traced back to our locations.
Thank you. That's helpful to know. It may complicate the issues you're having with the butters and line lengths, but I think it's important to protect your customers and your employees.
Absolutely.
No further questions.
I just want to knock on wood one more time because it's too good of a track record and I don't want to screw it up.
Thank you.
All right, Justin, thank you for joining. I'm going to go ahead and mute you, okay?
Okay.
All right. We have call-in user 857919. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Called in from 857919. Hello.
I'm sorry, I can hear you. I don't have any questions. I'm just listening. Thank you.
Okay, can I just get your name?
My name is Anthony.
All right, thank you. All right, so that concludes neighbors that called in. I'm gonna go ahead and ask Amanda one more time and mute her. Amanda, can you hear me? Okay, I guess not. So Stephanie has put some questions in the text, in the chat, so I'm gonna go ahead and mute her. Stephanie, you're unmuted.
Hey, again, not to ramble on. My concern with some of the answers are that it's very reactionary. So again, you now have 3 different people right in this vicinity who weren't part of the neighborhood council. So we're the neighbors actually living here. So I've heard multiple times, if we see something, then we can reach out. If we could, that's very reactionary. I think you need to be ahead of this game, have the extra security, and think about what we're talking about Weld Hill and that corner. Because what I'm hearing is, well, you've mentioned Octalitos doesn't have to manage anything. We're not saying that they have to manage anything or they've had to be responsible like this. They don't. But you're adding something to it, and it's directly going to affect exactly what Sarah said right around that corner. And we're telling you again and again, this is going to happen. You're going to need extra security, and that's why I mentioned, I know it may not seem like your responsibility, but that block of building that is directly up Weld Hill Street is exactly where people are going to walk and congregate. That's also where people, when they want to take a route around, they're going to go around at Dunkin' Donuts, come back down our one-way street and hang out, okay? These things will happen. You need to be ahead of the game, and I'm telling you, you should have security on that side of the building. Otherwise, it's going to be dependent on us to be reporting things to you, and that's just going to make things worse. So I really highly recommend get way ahead of this and hire the extra and consider that side of the building your responsibility for security and traffic control. The other corner, which is right at the tavern, is still not your responsibility, but I am telling you behaviorally, people park and they pull right up to that corner, both of the ones that Sarah's mentioning that prevent people. So I know that you've been saying...
On that front, I will commit right now, and Lindsey, you can hold me to it. We will at launch have that security person there on that corner, and we will have that person there until there are no longer any issues with it.
Excellent. Now on to questions as far as what he was mentioning about what he observes across from Woodlawn, but also what I observe across from our street, right across, especially with fewer people parking. That parking lot is already attracting people that are leaving all kinds of paraphernalia, people going over there to hang out and smoke, okay? So it's already happening at that parking lot right across the street. So be prepared to be monitoring that. And again, the train station isn't your responsibility, but it is going to happen. And again, the question is, I haven't heard that you have something for the community. So part of everything that I hear is that, part of your process should be engaging with the community and programs. What will you have? So what is the plan for the community?
First off, 3% of our sales are going to be given back to the city of Boston, and we will advocate for that to be used within the community. We also give priority preference to hiring locally, both from an employee and supplier perspective. And we are going to do whatever we can to get the concerns that we hear in these different meetings in front of the city to hopefully get things done. But there's limits to what we can and can't do. There's statutory limits and regulatory limits. So we're going to do whatever we absolutely can within the limits of the statute of the law and the regulations.
So then I would like to make a recommendation. I understand the 3%. I already know that. I've done homework on my own, just, amateur, okay? There needs to be something for our community, whether it's something that you're going to do for expungement, whether it's some education. You need to create a program for our community, or specifically our neighborhood. That will be huge for the residents of this neighborhood to have something actually in place, whether it's education, whether it's community service, whether it's neighborhood cleanup, something for our neighborhood, you should have something concrete, because that will go a long way. And I'm really surprised you don't have something that's already in place.
Well, so I thought you meant financial benefits. So aside from that, no, we do have, as part of our positive impact plan that is registered with the CCC, various educational programs like exactly what we said, expungement and safety and things of that nature. So we have done cleanups in Lynn on the and Revere, which is in that neighborhood there. So we do things like that as well. We also encourage our staff. Obviously, we can't require it, but we encourage our staff and pay them to give back to the local community with hours, and we pay them for those hours. So yes, those things do exist, and as we continue to iron that out specifically for JP, I could tell you that will be shared with the community as well, as the Boston Cannabis Board and the CCC for what our positive impact plan will be once we get to that stage in this process. Absolutely, and I do that everywhere else.
And Joseph,
That's to chime in. Be loud, meaning if that will go a long way, and if you're going to want people to buy into this more, I think you should be presenting that and giving some more information, because it will change people's minds and actually have a different view. Because hearing some concrete details.
Absolutely. And Stephanie, I'm actually the one who writes those plans for Joseph, and it's probably my fault for not relying on them more and making them more kind of a part of the process as through the past meetings and the current ones. So what I'll do is we are going to be, and we're required to by the CCC. So in addition to something that we want to do, it's also something that we are required to do and demonstrate progress towards every year annually upon that renewal for both the medical and the adult use license. So what I'm happy to do is, after we kind of put our kind of the final proposal together, is share it with you. And those are metrics that are actually, we have to report them. We can't just say, oh, we would like to do community service and then never do it and call it a day. We actually have to demonstrate to them hours, organizations, who participated, kind of the whole 9 yards. So what I'm happy to do, and I think for anyone on this call, certainly our future meetings will focus on that and specifically what that plan is. And then kind of make it a condition. I know that through the city of Boston, we certainly host annual outreach meetings to continue engagement with the community once we're open. I think it's important for us to present the progress towards those goals in each of those meetings. So Joseph, if you're comfortable with that, I think that's something we'll do moving forward.
Absolutely.
Excellent. I just think it'll be really helpful for people to hear more about that than the rest, because, lead with some of that, add some things that are actually going to make a difference for the rest of us here, because you've got everything for people who are down and out right around here. And you have a whole huge stretch of buildings that just went up within these last couple of years. And some is affordable housing, and some of those folks are not doing well. So, what's going to happen for the people around here is going to definitely be affecting the rest of our view.
Perfect. And what I'll say to anyone on the call, and also to you, Stephanie, if you have ideas, a specific initiative that we should absolutely get involved in, an organization that needs help, whether it be financial help, time help, resources, whatever it may be, please don't hesitate to reach out directly to Joseph via the email address. And Joseph, if you can scroll to it, that'd be great. Because we want to be sure that we're not just, if the community doesn't need, for instance, an expungement clinic and we plan it, right, we'd much rather do some things that are meaningful and important.
And lastly, relating to the neighborhood and community, what about working with the Shattuck? Were you guys able to get in contact with anyone, see about doing a program with them?
We've reached out and we still have not heard back, but we're going to keep trying. And I think that they're going to start paying more attention once we get closer to opening.
Awesome.
So yeah.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Stephanie. So we do have 40 minutes left for the meeting. I will go down the list just to make sure neighbors don't leave with questions that have not been answered. I'll try Amanda one more time. Amanda. No. Carissa Schaffer.
No, all my questions have been answered.
Okay. Carolyn.
All of my questions have been answered. Thank you so much, though.
Okay. Jesse, are you all set?
I'm good.
Okay. Anthony, you're all set?
Yeah, thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. And then last, Sarah, do you have any other questions?
No, but I remain extremely skeptical.
Understood and have noted all your concerns. Thank you for participating. All right. Thank you all for calling in today. Within the flyer, like the flyer that they gave you to attend this meeting, my name, my email number, and mail is listed. If for whatever reason you did not feel comfortable sharing a concern, a suggestion, feel free to reach out to me. The best way to get in contact with me is via email. If you were not able to get Joseph's email, I'll be happy to connect you. But again, thank you all for reaching out. This will not be the last time you see this proposal or see this presentation. I'm pretty sure that there'll be more community meetings that you can participate in. Thank you all for being here tonight.
Thank you so much.
No problem. Bye all.
Thank you. Thanks, Lindsay.